All right, what do you think if we start the second part of this session in which we're reviewing some of the questions from the question pool? It was a very, very interesting idea. I truly appreciate having the opportunity to have more questions. Let me show you, for example, what I'm going to do now is something that I've never done
Professor,
before. Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I
Go
wanted to
ahead.
ask a question before we begin again with the questions. It is about the grades. Do you have them? The grades from the past tests and presentations?
Yes, I have the grades for the presentations. Let me save them. Let me hide the names. I'm going to save them as PDF file. Um, I'm going to upload them to the LMS right now. Okay, evaluations. Okay. What I'm doing now is I'm in the LMS and I'm uploading, almost done. In the meantime, were you all able to access the through the link the drive to register for the interview?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any comments or questions about the way that the procedure is going to take place?
Yes, I would like to know how it's going to be.
How it's going to be?
Mm-hmm.
First, well, you need to schedule your interview right in the drive with someone else, and then what's going to happen is the day you're going to be, of course, you're going to be logged in before, right? And I'm going to call you. So you both get there to the interview, just like when it was face to face in the old days. And you're going to get two questions, but one at a time. Question one for you, then your partner is going to get question one, a different question. Then you're going to get your second question, and then your partner will get his or her second question. For each question, you will have 2 minutes and 30 seconds assigned, and it's going to be a random system, meaning that I will have a number of questions, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have them in a Word file or I'm going to organize this in a sort of a roulette thing. I'll try to make it as easy as possible. Um, so that you can have a clear idea very soon. And so I read the answer or show you the answer, and then you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to develop an answer. I'm going to stop you when we get to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I don't know if you prefer, and this is a good question that I can ask you. Do you want me to tell you when it's going to be almost to finish, when you're going to be finishing, I don't know, a minute two, when you have 30 seconds to go? Do you think that's all right for you, or would that make you more nervous? Sorry, I didn't get that.
Can you repeat what you said, please?
Yes, because I'm going to be timing the evaluation. Therefore, do you want me to tell you when you have 30 minutes, 30 seconds left, or do you want me to say just stop when we get to the 2 minutes and 30 seconds?
I think for me it's better if you just stop me.
Yes, I'd prefer that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Me
I
too.
might
Maybe we
get
can have
nervous.
like the timer on our cell phones to be conscious about how much time do we have left in order to answer the questions.
Okay, all right. Sounds good to me. So no notice before. So at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we stop. Okay, so I uploaded the a PDF file to the LMS in the tab called Evaluations. At the bottom, you will see a PDF file that says PIN 428 grades, and you will see the grades for the book report 1 and book report 2. I think I'm just, let me see. I think I'm just done. I think I just need to finish with the last question for everybody in the test. I think I went over the evaluations for the other courses, mainly recordings for phonetics. So I didn't have enough time to finish the last question. I think the last question was not the same for everyone, but I'm almost done with the test. Just a reminder, the test had grammar and vocabulary included. Okay, this is for the test. I'm typing this, by the way. There were some points assigned for content, some points assigned for grammar, and some points for vocabulary. Actually, 1 point was assigned for grammar only, and 1 point for vocabulary. So if, for example, a question had 8 points, 8 points as a total, 1 point was assigned for vocabulary, 1 point for grammar, and 6 for content. Let's suppose that a question had 10 points. 1 point for vocabulary, 1 point for grammar, and 8 points for content. Okay, let's suppose that you had to name four characteristics of something. So these four characteristics have to do with two points per 2 points per characteristic, and the rest was about 1 point for grammar and 1 point for vocabulary, right? So that's sort of an explanation for this. Just a sec, please. All right, sorry. These things happen when you are working from home. That someone came to ask a question, and I had to go and talk to this person. I'm sorry about the interruption, but it's what happens when you are working from home. That makes this experience quite memorable, right? Okay, so let's go back to.
Mister, I'm
Yes,
so sorry to
go ahead.
interrupt you again. I
No,
was
go ahead.
waiting to ask you a question
Sure.
about the book for the interview. It is just for our section.
Sorry, I didn't get the question. The book is for.
Yes, the registration for the interview. It is just for our section, the one that we are using.
Yes, as far as I know, the interviews for the other. Are you part of this section or the other one? Because I always have that confusion. Sometimes I say yes to students being in a different section and being evaluated in the other one.
I'm from this section.
Okay. As far as I know, the other section students are going to be assessed in on Monday afternoon, Monday morning. Sorry.
Okay.
Professor, I have another question.
Sure.
Will you use the questions we are creating, or is it just for us to practice?
I always use the questions. Well, to be honest, and this is the first time that I get a suggestion from the students. In this case, I remember Consuelo, right? You suggested creating a question pool. But I have used this before. I don't remember the year. Let's say 2016, 2015. That I used the questions that students created. But I'm not going to use all of the questions because I think that all of the questions are great, but sometimes not every question aims at elaborating an answer, considering arguments, considering points of view or personal perspectives. Sometimes the questions that are designed are too focused on memorization. So there's always this element that I'd like to incorporate in the questions in which you have to make connections either between two or more literary works, such as, for example, the role of women in medieval times. We addressed through three literary characters the role or the way that women were expected to behave at that time. Okay, so yes, I'm going to use the questions that you designed, but I need to filter some of them so as to use the ones that are that can create more possibilities of answers, right? Essentially, those questions in which to answer the question, you need to express your own perspective as well as using examples from book reports or other literary works that you have read, because sometimes it's not just about what you have read in this course, but also previous experiences as readers. Sometimes we have read in Spanish books that also have an English version, or are contain universal characters. I'm thinking about El Quijote de la Mancha. That's quite a universal book, and we can also provide or use those examples in the answer. So using examples from literature in general, I think it's also because that's the idea in this course, right? That we are able to analyze in which way, particularly this British society is portrayed by literature, or what do we learn from the British society in different times through reading. But I think more connections can be done if we open the scope, and also we may refer to, say, universal literary examples. So yes and no. Yes, I'm going to use the questions, but only the questions that are connected with what I want to develop in the interview. Considering, you need to consider that this course is placed in 4th year. So if you are familiar with the progression of the proficiency in the language, when you are in 1st year, you're able to, or you're expected to develop answers about explicit elements that are in a text, for example, whatever is in the line. From 2nd year and on, you're expected to read in between the lines, right? Not just what is explicitly stated by the author, but also what goes beyond. That's what people call reading between the lines. Now, from 3rd year and on, you're expected to have a specific level of English that can help you or can allow you to express ideas using more elaborate vocabulary, minding, of course, all these grammar rules and pronunciation aspects. And that's why it's important to remember that in order to understand why a test is assessed in terms of content, but also in terms of grammar and vocabulary. Because you can say the same answer with very simple words, and you're going to get it right. But you can also use more elaborate or more complex vocabulary in order to express an idea, and that also is connected with the level of proficiency you are required to have at this time of your teaching training program, this time of this major, right? All right. So I don't know if
Okay,
if
Professor,
you're
thank you.
no problem, anytime. I don't know if you would like to focus on one of the questions from the drive. One question that you think it's too complex, maybe we can deal with it as a team. Mariana, would you like to pick one of the questions in the drive? Do you have access to the drive? Am I sharing the drive, by the way?
No, I'm not in the drive. I don't have access. Sorry. Where? Can you share me the drive, please?
Sure. Maybe if Consuelo, maybe if you type your email in the chat box, Consuelo can give you access to it.
Okay.
All right. So because the idea is you also have access to the drive as you're part of the course, part of the section, right? Let me show you some of the questions that I've been using. This yes, I think you can you see the Word file that I'm sharing with you?
Yes.
All right, so this is one of the questions. Compare and contrast, which is find the similarities and find the differences, right? Between Beowulf and the Canterbury Tales. Which way are they similar and which way are they different? Do you have any idea, any comment, anything that you would like to say? But well, Beowulf was written in Old English, right? The Canterbury Tales were written in Middle English. If we go back to Old English as a reflection of the English at that time, spoken by the Celts, plus all the Scandinavian influences, right? The influences of the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes, and all those tribes, Vikings, right? That came on to England and had an influence on it. And the Canterbury Tales are, if you remember, a series of tales written by Geoffrey Chaucer in English in a time in which English was depreciated, right? English was the language of the poor, the language of the peasants, actually. The lowest, the bottom of this hierarchical pyramid, this feudal society, English was at the bottom, spoken by the ones that had to work for the rest. If you remember the this hierarchical structure, is it's composed by the monarchy at the beginning, right? At the top, and then let me see if I can get an image for this, because that's something that really helps. Okay, here I found one. Let's see if I can get a clear picture of this one. So English was chosen for the tales because obviously there was a point. The Canterbury Tales wanted to be, Geoffrey Chaucer wanted the tales to be read by everyone, right? Not only by the elite, not only by the educated, literate members of the society. So that's important because he wanted to preserve through the tales and show the culture at this time. So he wanted everyone to read this. And he's quite an advanced character, Geoffrey Chaucer, considering that one of his priorities was to share culture with the ones who didn't know much in society. So here at the bottom, the peasants were the ones who were reading English or speaking English, actually. Medieval English. Remember that medieval English had an influence of the French, not the French, but the Normans. That section in France, at the top of France, in the north of France, and the French as a language had an influence at this time in medieval English. So that's why English written in the type of English written in or used in the Canterbury Tales is looks very different from the one in Old English. The Beowulf is an epic poem, and therefore there are elements from an epic poem that we should be familiar with, which is the praising of the deeds of a hero. An epic poem contains several literary figures like similes, right? Alliteration, because in general, if you remember, this poem was supposed to be sung, right, or transmitted orally. And we have to remember that there are many elements that are part of paganism. Pagan values were part of the culture. There are elements that are also part of the poem, which is kennings. If you remember that literary figure, kennings is a two-word compound that was used to refer to several elements like the sea or like body. So with this figure of speech, which was present in Beowulf and not in the Canterbury Tales, it will also make a difference. Also, another element was caesura. I think I need to double check this, but I think that's a spelling. Caesura is what we understand as punctuation, which is basically a space in between the lines. So this space signaled the bard or the shop, this storyteller, that there was a pause at that in that section of the line. So caesura was not an element that was present in the Canterbury Tales. The Canterbury Tales, on the other hand, reveal, right, also a type of society at the time. So that's something that probably we would say they have in common. Beowulf portrays a type of society in which there are some values that are described as loyalty, bravery, glory, adventure, quests. And in Beowulf, we see that there are more elements that are connected with Christianism. For example, people are devoted to. Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
But I want to ask you something. It's regarding that I've seen in many different movies from ancient eras that the achievements of different heroes were told through songs. Is that why this Beowulf story it was supposed to be sung?
Okay, let me see if I can understand the question. Yeah, I mean, in general, these epic poems were connected with traveling storytellers, um, and because at the time they were sung, there wasn't. It was sort of a called it's sort of called orature because is the customs and the culture transmitted orally by this self-taught traveling artists, right? And yeah, so this and not only this, but the fact is that this is one of the and that it's not even complete. This is one of the poems, and this is not even a British story. If you remember, it's about Danish kings, um, right? He travels from a different country, right? He's a prince of the Geats. He hears about these problems. So he gets his bravest warriors and sets sail. So he comes from I think Sweden, if I'm not mistaken. So he goes hoping to find to have more reputation because in general uh, reputation was what they lived after because once they created a sort of a name they were um, I think there was a connection between having a big and well-known reputation and having a good ending in the other life. So there's this connection about the deeds you did in life and how well you're going to be received in what we consider to be heaven at that time. I understand it was Valhalla. So the the poets who sang these heroic deeds were actually perpetuating the stories, and so they were doing the heroes a favor by um, making them more known that they were transmitting culture and history, and of course making a life out of it because as they were traveling, they would be also uh, serving to connect the community, to connect this community, entertaining entertaining them at the same time. Um, and they would travel to other kingdoms or other communities. So they would make a living, but also they would preserve the culture. They would preserve history. So it's interesting that um, these poems that can help the community to stay together, intertwined as because you know that a common history builds a community. When you have a community that does not share stories or that does not have a common history, it's easily to be broken apart. So with this idea, these traveling entertainers would not only spread the news, right, would inform other peoples about what were the main characters, what were the main heroes. So they would give them long life, and they would perpetuate their influence. So it's interesting. This idea of the chops as storytellers, because I guess uh, before it was the role of newspapers. Sometimes, some time ago, it was the role of the radio. And nowadays, I mean, before in my generation, it was the role of a radio and the TV. But now for you, I guess social media and social networks somehow create this interwoven history. So if you are part of the same social media, you may share some components that make your life as a social being. Because if you're not connected with Facebook, well, before it was Facebook, I guess for my generation, but now if you're not in Instagram, if you're not in, what else do you use, guys, as social media besides Instagram, TikTok?
TikTok mainly nowadays.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
Twitter.
Twitter as well?
Yes, Twitter.
All right, so that gives you a sense of connection, a sense of yes, connection with others, because you are exposed to the same stories, you are exposed to the same memes, you are exposed to the same piece of news through the same media. Um, my generation was a generation that had only say 3 TV channels, so you didn't have many options. So whenever you watched, it was either in at least 2 of the 3 channels. So everyone was talking about the same thing, and we had all the same experiences. Now you have a variety of exposure, and you get choices, and these choices um, have an influence or an impact on us as a society. Because of different options, you can have more access to information, but then you need to filter which information is real and which is fake news. When I was younger, we had the possibility of watching only 3 TV channels, but then most of them were manipulated. Therefore, politically manipulated. That's what I mean. So therefore, it was hard to tell also which was true, which was also fake news or manipulated news. So this is somehow the role of the shops, that they were, as part of the jobs, able to entertain an audience. And since they would travel, they would have a different audience each time. They would bring the news. They would tell the story of a hero, and everyone, particularly in the old days, everyone loved a good story, because you didn't have other ways of entertaining yourself. So sitting around a storyteller to listen to an interesting story, which was sung, right? Was undoubtedly a great opportunity to not only have a good time or be entertained, but also to learn about history, and also to be around a community to share the same cultural elements, because that's what gives the community this sense of being one unique community. These feelings of being homogeneous, one community, and not many members who are different and do not feel part of a community. So that is interesting. Maybe that's something that is starting to decay now. Do you feel part of a community? Do you feel part of a larger group? Do you feel that you are as Grendel, right? A lonely, not a monster, right? But a lonely being who has to get the most skills as possible in order to survive in a competitive society. Another question is Shakespearean plays. This question has to do with Shakespearean plays. If you see similarities and differences, again, similarities and differences that you can notice between two Shakespearean plays. One of the plays this semester was Hamlet, right? Another of the plays was, do you remember? Macbeth. So which similarities or differences, Othello, right? Thank you so much, Carla. So which similarities can you find besides, plays written by Shakespeare, all of them tragedies? If you remember, some of them were tragedies, other were comedies, and the other ones were historical plays, right? So these ones were tragedies, in general tragedies, having in common that someone or many people or all of them die in the end. Now, in terms of themes, maybe we can find similarities, or what do you think? Because what makes Shakespearean's plays endurable is that they have very human themes. It's greed for power, right? It's envy. What similarities can you find between these plays? If you remember, if you have watched or read Othello, he had a very, I would say, low self-esteem. He felt very discriminated because of his skin color, right? None of his achievements seemed to be valued by the others. So he was manipulated by this sense of wrath, right? He was very, very, very angry at the options that he had or that he didn't have, and I think Macbeth was also a character that could also feel manipulation present. Did Macbeth want to achieve power in terms of economic power or political power? Was he manipulated or pushed towards achieving power by any other character? This one is a very interesting one. Considering the course syllabus, which literary work was your most or least favorite? Reasons. That's an open question, right? Very good. For example, oh gosh, it's 12:55. It's time to finish. So this Word file, if you can see here, it says 2 out of 8. So this is one of the pages of this file, the second page. Which literary period would you identify with and why? In general, we talked about Old English, Middle English, which are not literary periods, but the evolution of the language. Then I think we talked about Romanticism, right? But if you could choose a literary period, if you could choose historical time, if you could travel back in time, where would you like to live and why, right? And the last question here is, refer to the evolution of the English language, provide historical reasons and literary or linguistic examples. I will use examples?
I'd like to live or develop myself in the romantic era, since it's for me it's quite important to be connected with nature. In my case, I love nature. I love the animals, and the way that the language was beautified in order to explain this different connection with humanity and the sense of being human with nature. It was powerful. Therefore, that would be one of um, my my explanations for choosing this period of time.
I do agree with you, Daniel, in terms of the connection with nature. That's also something that I cheer, that I enjoy, I cherish, right? Now, one comment that I would make that's not mine. I read it somewhere. I don't remember the source. Is that in general, romanticism idealized nature as, for example, if you all see painting that's considered to be romantic, in general, what you see is not. I mean, it's beautified, as Daniel said, as to the point of idealizing the job of farmers or peasants. But when you live in the countryside, there are some elements there that are, when it's hot, it's really hot. If you can get mosquito bites. If you're walking next to cows, they actually smell. Some of them actually stink. So something that is not shown, or is not the focus of romanticism. So, what do you think? Is nature too idealized by romantic artists, or not? Not, it's not your case. It's not what you think.
I It might be.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Shall I continue? Sorry.
No, go ahead. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
please.
It might be beautified. Um, I don't think that if they exaggerate beautifying the images or situations, but as we all know, everything has its positive sides and drawbacks, and we have to live with that. In every aspect of our lives, we are going to have different drawbacks. For instance, if we're working, probably we're going to work 9 hours, but in the end of the month, probably you're going to have your pay, and you're going to have money to to buy your things, to spend, to pay bills. But it came with a bit of sacrifice. I'm not saying that it's a sacrifice of living with the smell of different cows or pigs or horses. I'm not saying that, but uh, life itself has drawbacks. But most of the time, gives you satisfying things.
Yeah, I'm only playing the devil's advocate because I completely agree with you about this connection with nature that sort of empowers you and gives you tranquility, or the possibility of reconnect yourself with your inner self. I'm just quoting some ideas that I read somewhere, that romantics actually depict nature, but Yeah, when you see, a cart pulled by horses, and you see a peasant in the back, and all the workers in the fields, you don't see them sweating. You don't see that it's actually hard work, and you just pay attention to the skies and how beautiful the trees are, and how beautiful the peasants or the workers look in the field. So that was the sort of a criticism that I read somewhere, that reality is too idealized, and but I think there are many other aspects from romanticism that I completely agree with you. That I think that's also a time in which I would like to travel back in time, particularly because of the idealistic elements of the idea of intuition as valid. So it's whatever you felt right, you should follow, and not just focusing on the logical, rational mind. The possibility of exploring what you believed to be true, and not just what was in the books. One of the poems by William Wordsworth was a piece of advice for young people to stay away from books, close the books, go outside and learn from nature, learn from other sources, and don't believe just what you're reading from the books. So there are many elements that are interesting from the romantic views, right? Sorry for the time. It's time to have some lunch, right? Time to eat. We need to take care of our bodies, otherwise we're not going to be good for anything, right? So thank you for your attendance and participation. I have a question by Visania. Visania, go ahead, please.
Yes, I know it's really late, but I would like to know a little bit more about the evaluation, the last, I think, one. I think is the casting, because I didn't understand what I have to do. And I don't know if there is a rubric, indications, or an example which I can follow. So that's my question. What do we have to do with the casting?
Yes, and that's my fault. I think I haven't been very clear about the possibility, because this is the first time. This was a suggestion by Miss Maravoli, and I thought it was very interesting to because I like trying new things in terms of the curriculum. The casting, that was one of the first the names that we used. Maybe we could have found a different one, more. Anyway, the idea with the casting is that you are going to act. There was an acting component to this, to the book reports, that was missing because of the context. But with the casting, probably we're recovering that component. So for the casting, you are going to act. The idea of acting is an act that could be individual, you in front of a camera, or in pairs. Maybe if you are familiar with technology, maybe dividing the screen in two, and maybe you can have a dialogue between two characters from not necessarily from a play. It could be from a poem, or even from a narrative, right? The idea is that first you choose a character from a literary work, and what you can do is you can act out a dialogue from a play, or you can write your own monologue. For example, let's suppose that one of you wants to act or perform a character from one of Shakespeare's plays. It's going to be easy because you just take the monologue or the dialogue between two characters and you perform it. Maybe you can adapt it to modern English. For that, you can find a version already made, or you can prepare your own. So this is some freedom that you have and that you want you to take. If you like a poem, you can represent or play the character, or you can even represent the author or the voice narrating the poem. And you want to write your own script for this, okay? If you're working on a tale, you can also choose one of the characters, and you can perform a dialogue that has already been created by the author, or you can create your own dialogue or monologue. So, for instance, you can choose. Let's suppose that you liked Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You can have a dialogue between the two characters, for instance. You can choose one of the characters and develop a dialogue that was part of the real story, or you can create a new dialogue. So there is this is quite an open task in which what you need to do and you need to focus on is the following. Since maybe the idea of dressing up is a little bit complex, that's not going to be taken into consideration. But my suggestion is, if you can create something using, I don't know, a piece of paper or whatever clothes you have, you can use them in order to make it more credible, okay? Diction. When you are acting, you need to make sure that you are understood by the audience. So you need to pay attention to the way you say things and what you say. Okay, so diction is important. Pronunciation is important. Since it's acting, you need to record yourself. So you need to use a camera. Okay, when you're using a camera, make sure you are, since you're acting or performing for an audience, right? An imaginary audience. And whenever you're performing, you need to look at the audience, right? Or always have a clear perception that the audience is right there looking at you. The camera is going to be the audience. So you need to always remember that, whether in the dialogue or in the monologue, you choose to address the audience, like to speak to the audience, or you're not going to give your back to the audience, but that's not something that you do when you are on stage. You never turn your back to the audience, right? So I could imagine that if you decide to work on a dialogue, for instance, and you divide the screen, one of you is going to be facing to the left, the other one is going to be facing to the right, and probably you can have a conversation like that. Okay, so the rubric is going to be very similar to one we used for Shakespearean plays one semester. The Shakespearean plays were not analyzed, analyzed in terms of characters, settings, symbols, themes, but they were only performed. So I'm going to upload this rubric, and that's the one that we're going to be using. Okay, so
Okay. And how long should the video be?
I'm considering a minute, between 1 minute and 5 minutes, but not longer than that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm going to upload the rubric for this rubric was. Did anybody know Pietro Marchioni from previous cohorts? He was a student. He already graduated. None of you? Okay, seems to be
No.
none of you. Oh, okay. So there are some very good Shakespearean plays that I have in a YouTube channel. If you are interested in watching these Shakespearean plays, some of them I think are, there's one Othello, and I think there's one Hamlet. The other one is The Taming of the Shrew, La Fidecia Domada, and they are plays by classmates of yours from previous years. They acted, and they were really, really beautiful performances. Consuelo?
I have a question. If I want to create a monologue, can I talk about, for example, the background of the character, or the biography?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, my suggestion is make it personal. For example, make a connection between I'm thinking about this is British literature. I'm thinking about Charles Dickens, and Charles Dickens is a British writer who wrote a lot about social injustice. And there are many books, tales of A Tale of Two Cities, Oliver Twist, for example, that deal with social injustice, social inequity, basically. So he went through an experience in which he was in debt, and he went to jail for it because he couldn't afford paying that debt. And I think that close encounter with the jail and going to jail because he couldn't pay for a debt, there was an influence out of that experience. So if you want to talk about the some biographical elements of a writer, make it personal. See if there's any connection with her or his biography and one of the characters, or if what happened, what he or she lived through, had an impact on his depiction of a reality or one of his or her books. So it's okay to talk about biographical references, but make it maybe I didn't express myself when I said make it personal. Try to make a connection between what you're saying and your own perception of it, not just because otherwise it will be just reading aloud information that you can find in a website. Now, if you're creating your own script, like for a monologue, make something with information that you find somewhere. So there's something from you. There's something that you're making with this information. I don't know if I'm explaining myself with this.
Yes, yes, Professor. Thank you.
Alrighty. Any other questions? But anyway, if there are questions that may appear, maybe we can use this this channel, this means, these Teams, right? I think you can type here, and then all the questions are going to appear here. Because I was thinking about mails, but then if you send me a mail, I think it's hard for me to answer to, unless you send the mail making a copy for everyone in the section. That it makes sense because I can answer the mail to everyone, right? Sending a copy to everyone. But other than that, you can type the question in Teams in the section for PIN428, and I can answer the question right here. Okay. If anything comes to your mind right after the session ends.
Professor, the last question, I promise. For example, if I talk about Othello, can I like about the character, the personality of this character, and the things that he had to live through the play and make a connection with the things that maybe happen today in the world. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it would make sense to because there are um, many portrayals, essays, analysis of characters that are very well known in the literary circles, such as Othello or Hamlet or Macbeth or any Shakespearean main characters. So the fresh perspective would be to make the connection with your own times, with your own context. So absolutely, I would say yes, go ahead, because that would make it not a repetition of something you find on the web, but you would consider the elements that you can find from other sources, but the connection is going to be yours. It's going to be your perspective. So what better than do it with contemporary issues or your own personal context or the context of the country. Yeah. So that's why this is a very open task that allows for many interpretations, because you can play by the rules, like um, taking a dialogue uh, that's already described, elaborated, defined, but you can make adaptations. You can change the dialogue. You can make judgments. You can share your opinion. So the dialogue can go anywhere in any direction. So if it's not an offensive material, I think the direction that this dialogue or script can take, it's totally up to you. All right. So feel free to ask any questions if they come later after the session finishes through this media, right? Through Teams, so I can have the opportunity to answer it, and all of you can have the same answer and the fair chance to reply or to ask a follow-up questions. Alrighty. So if there are no further questions, I'll see you on Friday, God willing.
Okay, Professor,
Feel free to ask to send me anything that you might be working with, like a script, if you want to have another or a second opinion, right?
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty.